what in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the 20s.
What
baby.
Plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zama Mkhize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On this episode, we're going to speak about how, essentially how your actions are not always valid, right? I made an episode, I think about like a year or two ago, about how your feelings are not always valid. And I would like to just adjust, tweak it a bit, upon reflection and growth and all the rest. I think that your feelings are valid, and that's okay, right? Your feelings are valid and that's okay. But validating the emotion doesn't mean validating the behavior. And that is really what I want to speak more about, because when I was just listening to that episode, I was just like, there were a couple of things I'm not sure I agree with anymore, or, that I really stand by and stuff like that. And I think it's because now I understand it clearer and better now, even though I know what my intention was with it. I think that I've found more language and able to articulate what it is that I really am trying to say, is that even though it's okay for you to have these feelings and emotions and all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay for you to act out the way we do. So here's the thing about feelings, right? Feelings are complicated. And to begin, why I believe feelings are complicated is that first and foremost is that it's personal, right? And it is unique to every single person, right? How something plays out doesn't necessarily mean we will all have the same feelings towards it. We'll all have the same feelings towards a certain event, towards a certain topic, towards a certain circumstance and all of that kind of stuff. We won't necessarily all kind of, respond, react, feel the same way, right? Our feelings are just all varied, but in some sense, we're meant to validate everyone's feelings because we all matter, right? And so who are we to say that what you're feeling isn't valid in this circumstance, when that is your lived experience of how something that is happening to you or around you affects you, And so in those ways, it can be so complicated, because even though you might not have the same feeling towards somebody else, their feelings matter too. And so it's so personal and so specific to you, specific to the circumstance, the story, the situation, all of that. And it can get really complicated because there is no predicting that, like, because this happened, this is how this person's going to feel, right? There is no one size fits all to it and stuff like that. I think that feelings are not always rational. I don't think we always rationally experience something, rationally kind of understand what it is that is going on within us internally and all of that kind of stuff. I think sometimes we may exacerbate, you know what I'm saying, or just kind of really blow into proportion what a feeling is, that we don't even understand what is the underlying real feeling to what we're experiencing. Other feelings can come into play, can mix things around, can overwhelm you. You could be feeling a bunch of things simultaneously, type of a situation. And I think that in those ways, it's not always a rational depiction of what it is that's really going on. And because of that, I think we all understand that feelings do not always mirror truth. They don't always mirror fact. They don't always mirror reality. Our feelings can't tell us the whole picture. Our feelings can only show us how something is internally bringing an emotion out of us, right? The effects of how something we've seen, something we've heard, something we're doing is doing to us, right? But it doesn't necessarily give an accurate description of what is really going on. because you don't know what it is triggering inside of that person. You don't know what part of their past is coming up for them, what part of their background or whatever is coming up for them, that you doing something that might seem so minuscule, or just so meaningless to you could be so big and intense for somebody else, right? And so we might all be looking at the same thing, but what we're feeling isn't coming out or projecting the same way. And that's what I'm saying, is like, it doesn't always mirror what is reality, what is actually being shown, because something else could be brought up, something else could be evoked, something else, is being left vulnerable, that, is being shown to everybody, rather than what is actually taking place or what is actually going on. And I think that the thing about feelings is, it cannot, because it's so in the moment, right? Because it's what you're feeling right now, it cannot predict the future. Your feelings don't think long term. They think about what's happening right now to you, right? What you're feeling right now. Your emotions, when they come out and stuff, it's a projection of what is going on currently. And so I think that's why people always say, don't make decisions when you're so caught up in your emotions, when you're so caught up in your feelings and all of that kind of stuff, because they cannot rationally see the full picture of what is going on, right? When you're so caught up in the mix of it all, it's really difficult for you to think long term of what decision you're making here. Just because you like someone today because of how funny they are, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I really enjoy their company, it cannot necessarily predict the longevity of the relationship, right? Because you might be choosing to disregard all the red flags because you're feeling like you just want to enjoy this person for all the good that they are right now, rather than actually taking into full account what the picture is showing to you, what the person is showing you, to who they really are, and all the rest, right? Because we want to rely on our feelings. I just feel so good around this person. I just feel so much like I want to be around this thing. I want to do this thing. I just feel like I want to participate in bad habits and all of that kind of stuff, right? Our feelings they are unable to give us information about what the consequences of our momentary decisions are going to be. Our feelings are unable to actually really bring to light how we're going to feel in the long run, and I don't mean for all circumstances, but for a lot of it, when we rely on our feelings too much, we allow it to distort reality. Because we will basically tell our brains to keep looking for information that supports what we feel, right? We tell our brains to keep looking out, and our receptors and stuff to keep kind of capturing information that supports this idea of, I'm meant to do this, I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to, whatever it is, even though that might not be the case, even though it's actually posing a detriment to you, especially in the long run, especially when you compound it. Feelings, you might be like, I don't feel like going to gym today, or whatever it is. And because of that, you'll find reasons as to why you should validate that feeling, like, oh, I'm just tired, oh, I've got a lot on my plate, oh, you know what I'm saying? And because of that feeling, our brain is going to keep trying to find those reasons to cushion you, right? And keep you comfortable. Our brains are designed to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable, and all the rest. And that's what I'm saying. Our feelings they cannot make decisions long-term for what it is that you're actually trying to achieve, for the goal that you're actually looking at, that discipline that you want, the consistency that you want, because we don't feel like it today. But I think in saying all of this, the reason why I feel like our feelings are valid, and we should be validating them, and to the people around us too, is that it's important that we are able to feel seen. It's important that we as human beings, feel acknowledged. We feel recognized. We feel like, okay, I am feeling something, and it's important, it's valid. We should be able to say, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. And that is the whole, case in point of being able to show our humanity. I think that operating as if we are robots and all of that is not helpful. It's not helpful to anyone. Operating as if we just don't have feelings, that we don't get tired, that we don't get irritated, that we don't get angry, that we don't get disappointed. That you know what I'm saying? I think it is important for us to show those realities too, that this is an experience that I'm having, because number one, it makes you feel like you're not alone, because now people are now able to relate to you. People are now able to connect to you. People are now able to see you and in some ways see themselves reflected back to them through your vulnerability, through your ability to express emotion, through your ability to acknowledge that this is a real feeling that I'm experiencing. You know what I'm saying? I think when we're doing that, we're able to create community and stuff like that. We're able to create spaces for compassion, spaces for empathy, because we allow people in to what is going on inside of us, that other people, can also see that within themselves and are able to, I guess, dissect it, unpack it, trace where it's coming from. I think the more we hide our feelings and emotions, the more miserable we become. We're human beings. The more miserable we become, because we feel like we're meant to just put it aside, right? That it's not valid, that it's not important and all of that. And it makes it really difficult for us to form bonds, for us to form friendships, for us to have relationships with people and stuff like that, because we're not letting them in to something that we're experiencing. We're not letting them into the real you. And that's why I'm saying it's important for us to validate someone's experience of something, even if we might not agree with it, even if we might not see it the same way and all of that. I think it's rational to be able to allow the space for emotions to play out, right? Here's where it gets tricky and dicey, and why I say that validating the emotion doesn't mean validating the behavior. We can have thoughts, we can have feelings, we can have all of that, but what you do with it, that's the change, right? That's the difference. What you do with what you're feeling, what you do with that anger, what you do with that sadness, what you do with that disappointment, you know what I'm saying? What you do even with that joy, that is where we are called to come together as a community and actually speak up and say enough is enough, speak up and say, where do we draw the line? Speak up and say, what is the boundary, right? I know that some people feel like, oh, I should not have to make any apologies for the way there's that famous Grey's Anatomy line is which Meredith Grey says, I make no apologies for the way that I may choose to heal, the way that I choose to deal with, what I'm going through or processing and stuff. And I think in some ways that can turn out problematic if we start all thinking and believing like that, right? Because we validate what we're feeling so much and our emotions so much, we think that there should be no consequences for the way that we may act out because of it, for the way that we may behave because of it. I think that we cannot promote a culture of condoning, enabling, encouraging, just genuinely promoting dysfunction. We cannot be a society that actively says that, oh, I see why they reacted that way. Oh, I see why this happened. Like, yeah, I get it. It's fine. It's plausible. It's whatever. Just because we can see it doesn't mean we need to accept it. Doesn't mean we need to say, do it again type of situation. Doesn't mean we need to be raising people, raising a society of us, a community of us where we are terrible at self-managing, because that's what I think it shows. I think that when we act out of character and all of that kind of stuff, it shows poor self-regulation. We are unable to bounce back to consciousness in the sense of realizing and recognizing what we're doing, because we're acting out of it, right? We're acting out of impulse. We're acting erratically. We're acting it's so intense and all of that kind of stuff. We have no idea how to come back to alignment. We have no idea how to come back to neutral, how to come back to baseline. And so we allow our emotions to not only consume us, but control us. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem, because leading with emotion and all the rest, you have no control over how far that can take you, right? Letting it just be what it is and stuff like that. It's almost like you give it full control to lead your life. You give it full control to make decisions. You give it full control to attack someone, to demean someone, to bring somebody else down, to bring, when we allow ourselves to be poorly led by our emotions and to not develop skills to come back to ourselves, right? I think what we're doing is showing that we actually have no sense of control of ourselves. We actually have no sense of understanding and stuff like that. We just kind of surrender to this thing, right? To this thing that we feel like is bigger than us. And it will mess with you because of the people you can hurt, the things that you can say, the people you will lose, the opportunities you will lose, the jobs you will lose, the relationships you will lose that you didn't intend to, that you didn't mean to, that you don't want to. That's what I mean. It's like sometimes you'll think that like I am valid and I have a right to respond and react like this, to shout like this. My therapist was actually saying to me the other day, sorry, just a little segue. She was saying that, have you noticed that like you can be arguing with someone about something that they've done? You could be, letting them know they could actually genuinely be in the wrong, right? But because you're the one shouting, because you're the one yelling and all of that kind of stuff, it puts all the attention on you. Like, it doesn't put the attention on what you're saying. It doesn't put the attention on what you're trying to correct, what you're trying to bring to light or show awareness of and all of that kind of stuff with the person. But all it does is that it makes you the bigger monster. It just makes you look more insane. It makes you look like the bad person and stuff like that because you're so reactive, you're so responsive, you're so... You know what I'm saying? You're letting your emotions take control of the situation that like no one is looking at the person you're trying to reprimand or discipline or whatever it is. They're looking at you and thinking, that's... you're doing a little too much, like that's a little weird. That's a little, whatever it is that, someone may feel towards you and stuff like that. And I think that is a genuine point to make. When you show lack of control or whatever it is over your emotions and being able to self-regulate or, just think through things and stuff like that, what you're showing is that you just want all the attention on you, but it solves nothing. We don't even get to what it is you're trying to say because all the focus is how you're reacting to the situation, is what you're doing and stuff. I mean, we end up now saying we understand why someone hit someone. What? What does that even mean? We cannot get to a place where it's normal for us to just see people hit things, slap things, break things, throw things, slam things. It's you are letting these emotions take you to places where you're punching things and all of that kind of stuff. That is truly what we regard as violence, even saying things that are so problematic, speaking out of character, speaking out of turn, saying things that are so harmful is a form of violence, saying things that are just genuinely problematic, bringing someone down, saying things that might not even be true, but you just want to exercise a sense of power over somebody, over the situation, right? You want to exercise a sense of control over somebody and the issue that's going on. I promise you, all it's doing is making matters worse, a lot worse. And that's what I mean when I'm like, your behavior isn't always valid. We cannot say that, oh no, but we understand why they did that because this is what they were feeling, this is what they were experiencing or going through. Because what are the repercussions? You know what I'm saying? What about everything they've burned, all the bridges they burned in the moment? What about everything they have set on fire because of what they were experiencing? And you must remember also the thing about our feelings is that they change. Just because you might be feeling this in this moment today or in this hour even, the next hour you could be feeling completely different. You could be thinking completely different. You could have a different perspective towards the situation. And now what about everything you've done in that hour when you felt the way that you felt? Who's going to account for all of that? And I think when we just go around saying, but it's valid, we absolve people of taking accountability of the best that they've made. We absolve people of being responsible for just the nonsense they've done. Because we say, but I understand, or it's okay, like this and this and this. It's like, I understand giving grace, I understand forgiveness. But what I will not do is condone. You know what I'm saying? What I will not do is say that this is acceptable and that this is allowed and that you can treat me like this because you were feeling that way, that you can respond to me like this, that you can, do things, say things to me that are just outlandish because you were feeling like that. I think that respect goes a long way. I think that we need to be able to understand that just because we're feeling a certain way, we should be able to move with respect. We should be able to move with still seeing someone else, right? And I think that what we do often when we allow ourselves to be led by emotion is that we show that we have a difficulty in solving problems, in problem solving, right? That we actually have no idea how to fix things. We actually have no idea how to come to the conclusion of something. We have no idea how to, and I'm not saying that you need to always have the answers. No, that's not my intent in saying that. What I'm saying is problem solving involves problems. If you're going to be someone who does problem solving, which is all of us in life, a whole bunch of life is us solving problems, right? We need to be able to understand that it means that problems are going to occur. And if we keep allowing our emotions to lead us, it means that we feel like we are incapable of solving this problem. We are incapable of getting to the solution of this thing, of getting to the other side of something. And so we give up. And so we just drop everything. And so we just become explosive and we react and we throw things, hit things, kick things, punch things, slam things, all of that kind of stuff because we feel like the problem is bigger than us. And I do not want you to ever feel like that about challenges that may occur in your life, about obstacles that may occur in your life. I need you to feel that even though sometimes you might not have all the answers, it doesn't mean that you are not in control. It doesn't mean that you're not in control of yourself and all the rest. I think it's important to recognize that that we are allowed to take a beat. That we are allowed to, and I know sometimes in the moment it feels like I don't want to calm down. I get that, right? But like I keep saying, it's what you do with that emotion. Don't now affect other people because of what you're feeling. Don't now inconvenience other people because of what you're feeling and all of that. And maybe not even say other people, even yourself. Don't self-sabotage because of what you're feeling. Don't now burn things and things going on in your life that you self-sabotage, that you don't even solve the problems, get to the other side, that you quit, that you give up, that you stop because you feel like this is too much, this is overwhelming, this is whatever it is. That because the longer you keep going on that route, the more we start dabbling along the lines of victim mentality, right? This idea that the world is now attacking you, that the world is not on your side, that everything is happening not in your favor, against you, right? We start just feeling like, oh, this is too much, this is that, I need to stop because I'm not capable, because I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not, whatever the things that we may say to ourselves, right? Our emotions are telling us, oh, I can't deal with this, that we play the victim a lot. We will gaslight ourselves and everybody around us because of our emotions, because we cannot understand it, we cannot process it well enough, that we just start saying things that are just so insane, right? But that's because you think you're the victim. You think that because this happened to you, everybody should feel sorry for you. Because this happened to you, everybody should now coddle you. Everybody should come to your corner, to your rescue, and all of that kind of stuff. We cannot live in a victim mindset, in a victim mentality where, oh my gosh, like I'm so sad, I'm so this, because the way that we will weaponize that against other people, we will weaponize that to manipulate other people to be on our side, to choose us, to want us because we're so sad, because we're crying, because we're defeated, because of this and that. We cannot use that. I think it's important for us to express emotions, show it, but don't use it as a tool to make somebody want to support you, to make somebody have to, you know what I'm saying? agree with you, have to choose you, have to, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not the goal and the point. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, don't act so out of character that it's a manipulation tactic to get people to be around you. You know, it's you wouldn't want that. I promise you, you don't want that. You don't want to feel like people are choosing you because they feel sorry for you, that people are hanging around you, whatever it is, because they feel sad for you, bad for you, and all of that kind of stuff. You want things based on merit. You want things based on achievement, based on the fact that you qualify and all the rest, because you're a good friend, because you're a good partner, you're a good this and that. That's what you want, you know? It's not going to feel as rewarding or as good if you keep allowing yourself keep allowing yourself to remain the victim in every circumstance, you know? Eventually, like I said, this is self-sabotage. Eventually, people are going to catch up to what you're doing, and that's going to be way worse. And so what I want to recommend is developing tools, developing coping mechanisms. Genuinely, I will go from a full breakdown, you know, crying, tears on the floor, feel like I can't breathe, feel like I'm moving into like what might be a panic attack. I don't know, but I just, so much is happening. And I will have to, even though it feels too much, you know, I will have to train myself and teach myself how to de-escalate the situation, how to calm down internally, you know, how to do something to distract from this overwhelming feeling, right? Such as, I mean, I journal every single day. That's a mental practice that I've had to, you know, really drill inside of me, because if I do not process my emotions, it's going to come out in another way, you know? And that's just for me. I remember this other time, I was crying so much. I was just going through a lot. I was under so much pressure, so much stress. I just turned on a movie. I just put on a movie and it helped me. I cannot tell you, for that hour and a half that I was just watching this thing, it de-escalated what was going on inside me, because I knew that if I allowed myself to ruminate in this feeling, to spiral in my thoughts and all the rest, you know, I was going to go insane. I was going to just see black or just see red, you know? And that's what I'm saying, finding these healthy mechanisms of just attaching to maybe I just need to watch something to get my mind off of this. Maybe I need to talk to a friend. That's what I do too. I'll just call a friend, and, you know, it helps bring you out of that bubble. And we need to be able to observe our emotions, right? That's another thing I just want to speak up. Being able to pull yourself out of it, in a sense of, don't just be the person experiencing it. Allow yourself to be the person also observing it. Because when you're observing your feelings and emotions, I think you're able to take a step back, right? You're able to, instead of being the one in it, you know, and feeling it and experiencing it, but observing the behavior, I think allows us to let the feeling pass, allows us to let the emotion, you know, do as time does and let it pass. And I think that a lot of us are not being observers enough. You know, we're just being the person that experiences all the time. We're being the person in the limelight all the time. We need to be able to develop the skill of pulling ourselves out. And by pulling ourselves out, that's what I'm saying. I do things like watching a movie or a series, calling a friend, journaling. It helps me get out of sitting in it. Because when I'm sitting, I don't know, you know, it could be going to take a walk, doing some activity, getting your body in motion. That's healthy, right? Being physical and stuff like that, moving your body and all of that is allowing just oxygen to move past through you. You know, I think that's also like the whole premise of like breathing exercises and stuff like that, is letting air to flow, you know, so we can, like I said, deflate this bubble we're feeling. I know that when I'm in an intense sense of feeling and emotion, I feel like I've got the biggest headache. My head feels like a balloon, you know, that like I don't know what to do. You know, it's hot. I always describe it as that I feel like it's hot. Things are hot. We need to find ways to de-escalate. We need to find ways to deflate. We need to find ways to just calm down, evaluate, observe, and then, you know, allow the emotion to pass through you. And also be able to accept that multiple truths can be, you know, factual, in a sense that just because this might be what you're feeling because this is the experience you had, somebody else's truth of what happened there is valid too. And that's what I mean about like being able to be an observer too, is that we can now also see what's really going on here, instead of just validating the ways that we may respond to things and behave and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to speak about today, is that as much as our feelings are valid, truly, I do not believe that it means validating our behaviors. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
In the
on?
20s
Think about
here.
the 20s.
The 20s,
What
baby.
In the
See
20s?
plenty.
What in the 20s is
I am
going
here
on?
for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.